Here I'm going to work out percentage of an amount the non-calculator way, without a calculator. Finding 10% of £280. Well, whenever you do 10% of something, do, for example, 10% of 280, you do 280 divided by 10. 280 divided by 10. How many 10 going to 280? 28. So 10% of £280 is equal to £28. But be careful. So with the next question, trying to find 20%. Trying to find 20% is not the same as doing divide by 20. Or finding 5% of something is not the same as doing 280 divided by 5. Only when it's 10% that you can do 280 divided by 10. So then, how do I work out 20% of 280? It's almost the same question, but instead of 10% of 280, we've got 20% of 280. You know 20% means 10% plus another 10%. That makes 20%. So 10% of 280, 10% of 280, we've done the calculation here already. 280 divided by 10 is 28. So 10% is worth 28. 10% is also worth 28. So altogether, 28 plus 28, 56. Answer is equal to £56. Right, 5% of 280. Well, you can't do 280 divided by 5, but you know already 10% of 280 is worth 28. You already know 10% of 280 is worth 28. We worked that out just a while ago. So 5% is worth what? Of 280 is worth what? Well, you know half of 10 is 5. So half of 28 must be 14. So 5% of 280 is £14. It's equal to £14. Let's do this question. It's not 250, 350 now. First of all, 35% of 350. Don't do 350 divided by 35. First things first, you are going to work out, as usual, 10% of £350. That's the same as doing 350 divided by 10. How many 10s go into 350? 35. So 10% is worth £35. Now let's look back at the question. We have 35% is worth 10%. 10%, 10%, that's 30%, another 5%, there you go, 10, 20, 30, 35%. Well, we know 10% is worth 35, that 10% is worth 35, 10% is worth 35, we don't know what that 5% is worth. So let's do our calculation here. 5%. Half of 10% is 5%, so we need to know what half of 35 is. Half of 35. If you don't know what it is, well, you need to work it out then. We'll just do it here. I'll do it on the side. Half of 10 is 5, so half of 35 is the same as doing 35 divided by 2. 2 into 3 goes once with the remainder of 1. 2 into 15 goes 7 times, remainder 1. But because I've reached the very end, it needs to stick a decimal point. That little 1 looks a bit strange, so stick a 0 with it. Now 2 into 10 goes 5 times. So 35 divided by 2 is 17.5. Right, 17.5, but because it's British money, don't say £17 5p, it's actually £17 50p, add on a 0. add on the 0. So now then, we have it here. 10% is worth £35. 10% is worth 35, and that 5% is £17.50. So what's that all together? You need to add them up now. 35, and then £17.50. Zero, 5, don't forget the decimal point. 5, 15, add 7, 22, 9, 10, 11, 12. £112.50 is your final answer. Right, if you need to rewind the video, pause the video, do whatever it takes to understand this.